Theresa Gentile?
Oh, that's my mom.
Oh, okay.
So my
And
mom's
we are
on.
live, and we are happy that Patricia
Good enough.
Gentile is here with us already. Welcome, Theresa Biehle. Biehle?
Yeah.
Biehle. I'll get it right one of these times.
No, you won't.
How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Yeah, just here with my beverage since it was booking a beverage. No.
What do you got?
What?
What's in that?
It's a ginger, actually. So when we recently went on a trip to the Netherlands, and one of the things that they served there was, so I was like, "What is this ginger tea stuff?" And turns out they take slices of ginger and put them in hot water, mix it with a little honey, and call it tea. And that was one of the things from the trip that I took home with me because I thought it was just delicious. So yeah, it's just little. I don't know if you can see it, little pieces of ginger floating around in a cup of hot water.
And that's good, is it?
It's really good. Yeah, it tastes delicious. And ginger's supposed to be good for you too. So
So
It sounds good.
there you go.
And our favorite Canadian is here. I'm going to say "our" so that we can all get in trouble this time.
All right. Yay. Okay, so let's take care of a little housekeeping first before we start spinning Mike's wheels of silly questions. We are at 198 subscribers, so hit the like button and subscribe and whatever. And thank you very much for the 198 people who have done that. We're looking for a couple more. And Theresa, you got a new book. I don't recognize the red book back there with a wolfie on it.
Yeah, so that one I finished in September-ish of last year, and that one is in the same sort of fantasy world as the first two, the blue and the green one back there. And but it's a completely different story, and it's on a different planet. Like if you were familiar with my other books, there's not only just like the fantasy world that gets created, there's also multiple different like planets they kind of hop to. So this one adds a new planet to that, and then a new set of characters, and you follow them through, their separate story. If you've read the other books, you can, some things sound familiar, but you don't have to have read them in order to have read the new one.
Okay. So you have a fantasy book.
Yes.
But people are going to different planets.
Yes. So it's a sort of a twist, fantasy with sci-fi. It's more fantasy than sci-fi, but yeah, I like to throw in a little bit of space in. Yeah.
So are there actually like ships, or are you doing like portal kind of stuff?
It's portal stuff. So there's like cloaks that they have, and if you have the cloak and you like go through the portal, it increases your chances of survival to wherever your destination is. And if you're not wearing the cloak and you just kind of randomly go through the portal, they don't have a very high chance of surviving when you show up at your destination. So it's sort of a magical way of traveling. That's why I like shy away from calling it sci-fi, because it's not really science, Right. They kind of just go through a portal and they're there.
That's also a really convenient way to get rid of people you don't like.
Yeah, it is. It's like,
this character is causing me problems. He's going through the portal without a cloak.
Exactly.
I have one question.
Just one.
Do the people you try to dispose of, do they all wear red shirts?
No, actually, they don't. No. Why red shirts?
Star Trek. Anyone in a red shirt.
Yep. No, I don't. I didn't. I'm not prejudiced against any colors in this book.
Sorry, I'm typing something very important.
Oh yeah. No, it has a little bit of a mystery to it. So basically, so my other books I like to say are sort of reminiscent of like Narnia or something like that. So they're all young adult books, which I've learned is something I need to tell people up front. So because sometimes you sell someone on the book, the story sounds really cool, and then they realize halfway through it's young adult, and they're like, oh, whoops, this is not for me, sort of thing. So I've definitely had that. Or if you read like some of my reviews online, I definitely get that. So that's something I've learned in my career, I guess, as an author is definitely don't forget your the audience that you're writing for. But yeah, so this one you're following two boys, and they're adopted brothers, and they're basically like looking out for each other. So both of them are cursed, but in different ways. So one of them, once he hits 40, he's going to lose his mind thanks to a relic that his family has given him. And the other one was born half demon. And so they kind of survive through life, like helping each other out. And then one of them finds like a lead to solving one of their curses on a nearby planet. So they're originally on Krail, which is actually where the two other books take place. But then they go to Alir, which is a new planet that's plagued with star storms, which is because meteors are flying too close. Fireballs and stuff falling from the atmosphere. There's magical like flowers. There's like a clan of witches, some of which are good, some of which are not so good, and just them kind of going on their adventure through this planet, trying to solve the mystery of their curses before one of them succumbs to their curse.
Now, you put out your first book in 2017, right?
Yeah, it's been a while ago.
So what got you into it? Because your degree.
Sorry.
Black cat crossed our path. Holy shit, Mike, we're in trouble.
We've been in trouble, Ro.
Yeah,
All right,
that was Supernova. She's sorry, she wanted to say hi.
Right, we are a cat-friendly program.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I got disrupted by the kitty. What was I asking?
Something about
2017 first book.
What? Oh yeah. So your degree is in.
My degree is in aerospace engineering. Yep.
Okay, so are we to assume then that the writing of fantasy just helped you decompress from, aerospace engineering?
Yeah, you can think of it that way. It's definitely it is a good, just completely different way of looking at things, right? And I've always liked to write things, like even as like a kid, in school I would enter like the young author contest, and I wrote like fantasy books as a kid, obviously that were like little because they were in elementary school, but I've always been like into fantasy, and I've read like whole bunch, like I love Brandon Sanderson, Robin Hobb, like all those sort of big fantasy authors, and Robert Jordan. I've read all of their stuff like religiously. So just always been into fantasy, and then just kind of I actually started writing it when I was in college. So it took me probably about 5 to 7 years to actually like finish the book. So I like started it, and just put it down, and then just never really finished it until finally I was like at my job, and I was like, you know what? I want to finish, you just want to finish what you started, right?
Yep.
So that's what I did. And then I was like, oh, well, now there's got to be a book too. And then it just kind of rolled forward from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't watch like Star Trek at all?
I don't actually watch that a lot, but I've seen it. I've definitely watched some episodes.
What do you think of Captain Janeway?
Don't answer that. Do not answer that.
It's a trap.
It's a trick question.
So now we met you once at a show somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember where. Probably. God, where the hell was it?
I've seen Mike a few times. So at like Awesome Con, there was Fairfax or Roanoke Comic-Con or Biglet Comic-Con.
Probably where we met. Yeah, it's probably Biglet.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you like doing that kind of thing, getting out and going to Comic-Cons? Is that something that you did ever by yourself pre-book?
Not really, no. Actually, like my first time really getting into that was when I wrote my book. I was like trying to just find places to go or, ways to get it out there, because that wasn't really something, since I just wrote it instead of like had it without really having in mind like a marketing plan or anything like that. I was just wrote the book to finish it and to write it. And so then a few years later, you're like, okay, well now I have this stuff. What can I do with it? And it sounded kind of fun to try out. And actually, so Awesome Con was my first con ever, and it was really just out of whim. Like their little thing, says, "Oh, this is a not, you don't automatically get in, this is, they vet the people and all this stuff." And so I just kind of rolled the dice and was like, all right, I'll just apply for it and see what happens. And then they're like, "Oh yeah, well, you've been selected." I'm like, "Oh great, I'll just show up and see how that goes." Yeah.
I have come to the conclusion that Comic-Con's vetting you is basically waiting to see if the check clears.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
That's
you've been vetted
at that point.
Yep. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, that's the selection process, is will they pay timely?
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured after they let me in, because I was like, well, I have 0 reviews on this book. I'm just here. So, all right. Yeah. But I feel like I've come a long way since then, because I have gotten a few more, a few more books out there, and then a few more reviews out have appeared, on the Goodreads and stuff. So that's always a good feeling, when people give you feedback, because it's really hard to get people to, at least I've found, like, you tell people, "Oh, hey, write a review if you really like the book," and then
I tell people to write a review regardless if they like it or not.
Yeah,
it's like, if you're going to give me a 1, just be funny. That's all I ask. And
make me laugh.
I'll work with it. But yeah, getting reviews it's harder than finding a job and doing interviews and stuff like that. It's just much more painful process, because you have no control over it whatsoever.
Yeah. And it's it's kind of scary. So one of the places I went, during one of my, let's figure out how Theresa can market herself. I tried the whole Instagram, like Bookstagram thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people out there, which is cool. And so I was able to get up to 1,000 followers or so in only a few months, which was kind of crazy. But what I found is, that's where I learned I had to be very specific about the young adult genre, because a lot of what they like on there, fantasy wise, is like that romantasy genre. If you guys, yeah. So, yeah. I like the face you made. That was good.
Yeah. I shouldn't be like that, right? It's not bad. I for my own reading that I do so little of, it just wouldn't do it for me. And
right.
Having said that, I'm writing a book right now, and I just wrote a chapter where there is a connection between these two characters. Well, he doesn't realize it because he's stupid, right? But she's being pretty obvious about it, right? And the mentor guy realizes it as well. But I in my own head, I'm writing it thinking to myself, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this?" But whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Ro, just on a side note.
Yes.
Ro is my line editor, if you didn't know. When you get to chapter, I think it's 18, tell me what you think.
Chapter 18.
Yeah, that is that I'm curious, because I've been told it's hysterical, but I should take it out. And then
this is good. Get rid of it.
And then I'm like, I don't know. But anyway, when you get there, side note, sorry, Theresa.
Oh, I don't mind. Yeah,
I will make it up to you, because I will roll the die, and we can have your first silly question of the night.
Wait, before we do that. So yeah, I edit for Mike. We all know that. But Theresa here also has a sideline as a graphic person. She is responsible for the Bald&Balding logo. So yay, Theresa.
It looks pretty. I like it on there. It looks nice how you guys have it. That's pretty cool.
And we should also mention, Theresa, you do all your book covers yourself, correct?
Yes, I do. I do all of my book covers. I do all of the little chapter. Oh, hey! Oh, that made me happy. Yeah, and I do all the little chapter art. No, book number 2.
I don't have book 3, so.
Oh, that's okay. Here, I brought them over here. I brought the fancy hardcovers. Oh, here we go. I'm really bad at this camera thing.
Are you getting prints through Ingram?
The hardcovers are from Ingram Spark. The paperbacks are from Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Yeah, it's just easier to get the books into the stores when you have Ingram Spark, or at least what I've learned around here. Like some of the bookstores like you go into, and depending on like who's there, it's like, oh well, we don't support Amazon or something like that, and then they don't want to put your book on the shelf for that reason.
You mean they don't scream "Get out, get out"?
No, not usually. They say it nicely, and then
well,
you kind of read between the lines, and you're like, oh, they're trying to shoo me away.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
part of
say
that
Amazon.
part of that's because of the UPC code or the ISBN. If you have an Amazon ISBN, they can't return the book or something. So there's some legitimate reasons for them not wanting to do that.
Yeah, and then they also get, what was the other reason? The other reason was she said, oh, she wanted to buy, she didn't feel comfortable buying it from like the individual, and when it's on like Ingram Spark, they can buy it from the distributor, I guess.
Right.
So that makes them feel more comfortable too. But then again, I also have some of the, like if you have a small enough shop, there's there's like a Berryville like treasure shop or something. So it's not even like a bookshop, but they have just all like little handmade things, and they took my books from Amazon, no problem. So it's definitely just on like a shop by shop basis.
Independent bookstores are generally a lot more kind of willing to take a couple. Sure.
Yeah.
Which is always nice. So Tree in a Heather Field, what's that?
Oh, okay. So that one is actually a novelette. So I'll bring that one down. I didn't bring one over here. So it's here you go. So it's very tiny. I wrote this one as a book for charity. So everything that I get from this book, I actually donate to a Cure for Alzheimer's fund. So I wrote this one. It's a historical fantasy. So the other ones are like pure like epic fantasy, you know, like there's magic, you know, mystical creatures, going on a quest, you know, good versus evil. This one here is based on my grandmother who passed away due to Alzheimer's disease, and she grew up in England during World War II. And so the last thing that you forget as like Alzheimer's disease progresses is your childhood. And so she would tell us stories of her childhood growing up in World War II England as her disease had kind of progressed along the way. And so I took some of those stories and fantasized them. So the first half of each chapter in this book is following an elderly lady who is succumbing to Alzheimer's disease. And the second half of each chapter is her escaping to a fantasy world, which is her childhood during World War II England. And so like she follows a magical cat into a hole. There's like druids, there's finding their way to America sort of thing, all crammed into this little tiny novelette that I'm still having a hard time with the camera. Yeah.
That's nice too for, you know, your own kids, so they can get to know her a little bit through that. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Where did she live during the war?
Oh, it was Glossop, England.
Glossop?
Yeah, Glossop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, which is not where the book takes place. I end up making this take place near Stonehenge here, just for some fantasy purposes. So I definitely took some liberties with the book to make it more, you know, entertaining and whatnot. But yeah. And then, so you said I did the art. So I also do some of the art in like here as well. I am really bad with this camera thing, but yeah.
That's a very handy skill to have.
Yeah, I use it for a few different things. So not only do I do the books, I also, for fun, I create board games because I love board games too. So I've made a few. Definitely not a great way to make money. It costs so much money just to produce some of these games, but it's really fun to do. Yeah.
Hey, Mike, at the thing in August, Crash City, don't they have a big board game thing?
They're what, a gaming convention that's trying to broaden out. So they have authors and whatnot now, but it's more Magic the Gathering, that sort of thing.
Yeah, but it might be a cool place to, and the table price is like $50.
It's 85, but yeah.
85, whatever.
But it's 3 days.
Yeah. So it's down here in Roanoke. And Bald&Balding is a bottom of the shirt sponsor for Crash City Con this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
He's
pretty cool. What does that mean? Like, what does it do?
It means we gave him $100. That's what it means.
So the story for Crash City is that last year when I was at RavenCon, I went to a panel of, how to market your book. And I'm like, okay, indie author, how do I market your book? And I got you need to determine who your audience is and then present your book to them. I'm like, thanks.
Thank you.
I'm
Yeah.
like, specifically though, what would you, well, you need to really research who would like to read your book and then find it. I'm like, just did not give me anything of use. And I find just like, okay, fine, whatever. I'm done asking. And at the end of it, the guy came up, Don Haymaker. He's like, hey, Mike, here's a couple things you can try to do. And I was like, thank you for that. He goes, by the way, I have a Comic-Con and we're trying to broaden out to authors. Would you like to come? And I was like, I would love to come. So he gave me a free table, and that was actually my best sales for the year last year was Crash City Con.
Crash City Con. Okay.
It's in Roanoke.
They're doing it
last weekend in August.
Yeah, they're doing it at the Berglund Center this year. I think it's a 3-day, 23 to 25 August.
Yeah.
So. Okay. All right. Yeah, because I think I have Fairfax Comic-Con on the 17th of August, but I think that's all I have in August right now.
So, and he did say that because they went last year, they had in a hotel, and this year they're having the 10,000 square foot Berglund Center. Wow. He's like, everybody gets 10 by 10 pipe and drape, everything. So yeah, $85 for lots of space. Yeah. If you're free, you should look into it because it's actually a very nice show.
Okay. All right. Well, send me an email after this with the name.
I will do
that. I will forget. Because I didn't bring a notepad over here for my...
People don't take notes for our show? What the hell?
I'm sorry. I figured I would take mental notes for you guys.
Bro, they just watch it over and over again on the internet.
Right, yeah.
Until it's memorized,
Yeah. Want to ruin it with notes.
And hey, Ro, one thing I don't know if I told you yet is that because they have so much space, he is dedicating a room to Bald&Balding to do live interviews during the show.
Sweet.
So, I mean, I think this is more of we have so much space we have to fill.
Yeah.
Because he also wants to have an author's reading room where you can go in and read your book. He wants to have author panels. So he's like, yeah, we're going to have panels. How many panels do you want to be on, Mike? Do you want to leap? And I mean, he's pushing the author stuff hard. He really wants to expand his footprint from gaming to more.
Okay.
So yeah, he will definitely, if you have like an idea, like I'd like to have a panel on, he'd probably say, great, you are the moderator.
I don't want to be a moderator for a panel. I'm happy to be on a panel, but I don't want to be the moderator.
I was a moderator. It turned out pretty. The guests saved the day because I was like, I'm going to give you a couple pieces of news that will really depress you, and then it's up to my panel to lift you back up. I started from the Simon & Schuster lawsuit. They said that 50% of traditionally published books sell less than a dozen.
Huh.
Traditionally published books?
Yes.
Wow, that's like not even selling out your friend group.
Well,
yeah.
And then the second piece.
Friends, I have like 3. No, I'm kidding.
I know, right?
And then the second one was I looked on Goodreads, and there were 25 million fictional books, and 23 million of those were fantasy. So good luck trying to get punched through the noise.
Well, yeah, fantasy is such a huge genre.
All right, you've convinced me, Mike. I'm going to write spicy romance.
There's a huge market for it. Like, I mean, my
know.
stuff is definitely not spicy romance, but let me tell you, Bookstagram, they will go crazy. Like, I mean, crazy for this stuff.
I thought about trying to write one just as a joke, I want to start it with, I never thought I'd have an opportunity to write a letter like this. Anyway, you got to be a certain age, I think, to understand that. But anyway.
So one last ridiculous story. When I was at RavenCon this year, I went to the panel where what editors all wish that authors knew. And the one guy's writing an anthology. He's like, follow the brief. Please follow the brief. He goes, I had an anthology for zombies. The second line was no zombie erotica. He goes, over half of all subscriptions were zombie erotica. And I'm just like, ew.
Who knew that was a thing, right?
So yeah,
There's a
there's
market
that.
for everything, right?
Yeah. And I bet they do great on Bookstagram.
They might. I don't know. I mean, what is it? The trope. They have like this trope list thing that they love, and like enemies to lovers is the trope. I mean, it seems like everybody likes. So if you're looking to change your genre up, that.
But and I think we've mentioned this here before. It's just like all the bad Christmas movies on the Hallmark Channel and Tubi and things like that, right? They're all just churned out. I mean, they probably make 2 of them a day. And they're all the same, right? Even the covers look the same. They're crazy, but people still watch them. My daughter and I watch them because they're so bad. We like to make fun of them. I imagine. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, my books have a little bit of like that innocent like romance in it for like young adult, but it's definitely not. It's definitely not the romantasy category and zero spice.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I want my books to have as much spice as Vermont food.
Yeah, there you go. Or what I found out recently is Netherlands food. They like completely bland food. Their recommended morning meal is bread with peanut butter and chocolate sprinkles.
Nice. Yeah, my spice scale runs from the gamut from like chocolate pudding to corn on the cob. So somewhere in that kind of range, right? There's none of this. Oh, I got this 18 million whatever freaking ghost pepper. It's like, no, you can keep that.
And then and I definitely, so the first book that I asked for like ARCs, so Instagram is actually great for finding ARC readers for free, like advanced review copies. So that was something I never did with any of my any of my books to this point, is to actually set up a real like ARC campaign. But they eat that stuff alive on Instagram. Like like everyone's there like to get free books a lot, and which is good from an author perspective if you're looking for feedback, but you just got to make sure you either have a form or some way to vet the people who's reading it, because the red book I have, The Tale of Two Curses, like zero romance in there. Like that's like 2 boys who are best friends, and they're like traveling and, figuring out, and like the worst that gets is there's a hug. So that was sort of not the right, group. So if you look at some of like my reviews and they're like, this is not a book I typically read. And I'm like, you know what? Lesson learned. Make sure your book gets out to the right people for reviews.
Do you find that the reviewers gave you any useful feedback? Because I tried that with my latest for the first time, and there were a few people that said, "Oh yeah, I'd be happy to do it." 1 or 2 of them gave me some okay feedback, and a couple others are like, "Oh, I really liked it. This is like my favorite one so far." It's like, yay! Yeah, I'm very happy, but yay, that doesn't.
It was it was actually kind of a dice roll. So it's the people who didn't really like the book as much gave feedback that sometimes wasn't super helpful, because they're like, oh, there's too many characters in here for me to follow. And it's like, okay, so you're not a fantasy reader, because generally fantasy books have a larger cast of characters. Or it'd be like, sorry.
Until Mike kills them all.
Oh, until Mike kills them all. I know, Mike. I listened to your first book on audio, and the character you killed made me sad.
I've got that before. I know you're talking about it.
We were talking about this before, Theresa. And Mike said that he had a group of named characters in a book that he wrote, and he killed 70% of them. Yeah. Yes, to the point where he had to make up new characters at the end to carry on conversations.
Oh my gosh. I'm not reading this book. No, I'm just kidding.
So yeah, it fell into the new author trap of, hey, I'm writing a book. I need some drama. Okay, kill someone. That's drama. So
tension.
Yeah, the first draft, I had 10 named characters and 7 of them died by the end. And I'm like, gosh. I have no one left for my protagonist to talk to.
Well, give him an imaginary friend that's unkillable, and he can talk to himself as he slowly becomes more and more insane. There you go.
Nice. I like it. So are you ready for your first silly question? Because these haven't been silly yet.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so I'm rolling a die. See what the question is. Number 4. If you could rewrite the ending to any classic novel, which one would you choose and how would you change it?
Ooh.
Classic novel.
It's
Oh
been
my
staying up
goodness.
doing homework.
I know. I was like, man, when's the last
No,
time
that
I
was a
read
chat
classic?
GPT question. I
I
didn't
feel
do
like
it.
I'm letting the side down here, man.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
So
nice.
I haven't really read a lot of classic novels. I'm more of a fantasy person.
Well, classic is up to you to define. So,
Hobbit is classic fantasy.
yeah, anything
Oh, all right.
anything in the 20th century is now classic. Apparently,
Oh,
we're classic, bro.
Oh, let's see. Well, let's just say any book so I'm actually a very happy ever after sort of person. So
Uh-oh.
any book I would say that has like a bad ending, or like kills off the main character that you've gotten really attached to, or someone like that, that is definitely an ending that I would rewrite. I'm not thinking of any off the top of my head here of classics, but I know a book that I just finished by Amelia Zen Wu, I think it was. It was like an Eastern sort of fantasy, and you go through this book with these characters as it had a really good like magic sort of thing. There was like sword play and that kind of. There's a little bit of paranormal because they were like interacting with the spirits and stuff. And then at the very end, the main character that was a guy who had like gone the way of like the demons, but still in like a good way. I don't know. It made sense in the book. They ended up killing him off, and I was so mad. I was like, I would totally make that a happily ever after. So yeah, if anything that ends with a bad ending, and actually that's part of. So yeah, if you ever read any of my books, happy ever after guaranteed. Like, I'm not a very, very negative person.
So,
But it
Theresa,
doesn't have
2
to be
things.
negative, right? I mean,
So,
okay,
2 things I want to tell you.
sure.
One, I just finished reading Cold West, which was a Spiffbo finalist from last year. Do not read that book. You do not want to read that book.
What book's that?
It's Cold West. It puts the capital GRIM in grimdark. I mean, it's beyond grimdark. So yeah, do not read that. And 2, I will just warn you, if you read more of my books, I was on a panel, and an author said that he got feedback from persons like, well, you write first person present tense, so I know the main character is never going to die, so there's no stress really. He's like, challenge accepted.
Oh no.
He goes, I've now written 8 books, and in 3 of my books, I've killed the main character off. So I may have taken a page from his outlook in one of my books that I wrote that other people was like, I love that character, and you killed him.
Is Chris going to die?
Do what?
Is Chris going to die?
There's a sequel. So
Okay, all right. So
But-
yeah, Old Yeller. I mean, the dog had to die, right? It was an important part of the book,
Oh.
right? At least he wasn't killed by some crazy congressperson. It's.
Well,
Anyway.
that reminds me of like Homeward Bound, that movie, like I remember as a kid watching that, I was like almost crying before all the dogs came back at the end.
I had a bobcat in my first series, and about book 2 or 3, I was sitting there going, how long does a bobcat live? Right? And then because of magic, they lived longer, but I just came to a point, it's like, now that this thing, it's well beyond its normal allotted span of years. It has to die. And a friend of mine who was reading the books actually wrote to me and said, I cried. And I just went, yes, success. Woohoo! I'll kill more people if I get that kind of reaction. That's great.
You guys should read Robin Hobb's books. Oh my gosh, she is an excellent fantasy writer. But which series is it? Is it the Golden Fool or the Assassins? The Live Ship Traders I like the best, just because I think that is the best villain I've ever read in my life. But the first set of books that she wrote, there is a creature in there that doesn't make it, and I got very sad. But I mean, her books, they like rip your heart out, but she writes like just very well. Like,
yeah, I've read the first trilogy. I know what you're talking about.
yeah. No, she's a great writer, but yeah, I was like, why are you doing this to me?
That's Robin Hobb.
Yeah.
I thought of another silly question that's
Okay.
not on Mike's list, I'll guarantee.
Ooh, I'll add it.
And it goes along the same line as the one you just did, right? So you have seen, of course, I hope, and if you say no, you haven't seen it, you're off this. We're done. The show's stopping.
This is
Don't give him an easy out, Ro. Don't give him an easy out.
You've seen Willy Wonka, right? The proper Willy Wonka with Gene Wilder.
I've seen Willy Wonka. Yes.
The original one.
Yeah, I think it was the original one where they go through the really scary tunnel. I was terrified of that tunnel.
Yes, that's the one. Perfect. The one that was made on acid or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're Willy Wonka, and you have to give away the factory, but you can't give it to Charlie. Which one of those other kids do you give it to, and why? This is our beer break, Mike.
Well, I'm trying to remember all the kids. I remember the one that turned into a blueberry. She was kind of obnoxious.
I was going to say, I didn't like any of the kids.
Yeah, I don't remember liking any of them. That's the thing. I remember the blueberry one very, very specifically.
Veruca Salt.
That's who it was.
I want a Oompa Loompa, Daddy.
Oh,
I think that's what I give it to. Just for the name.
Well, since I'm apparently blanking on all the other kids right now, maybe if we gave it to her, she would learn how to be a good person. But
No.
No, she's just a bad blueberry.
She wasn't the blueberry. There was Veruca Salt and the blueberry girl, and then there was the boy who ate the chocolate and got like shrunk down to nothing in the TVs.
Yeah, the TV boy. I remember that.
That German kid.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, somebody does not want me to enable Veruca.
I think that's who I'd give it to.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. What else you got on your list there, Mike?
So your next grueling question, which I've wanted to ask everyone, but it's number one on the list, and I never roll one. So we're just going to cheat.
Well, that's good for D&D, right?
Special. Never roll a critical miss.
What's the strangest or most unexpected thing you've ever had to research for your book?
Oh, so you're basically asking her what her search history is.
Yes, and is the CIA monitoring you?
Let's see. What have I researched? I make up a lot of stuff, and I do a lot of things based on like my travels. But let's see. What have I researched?
Well, see, we don't normally ask these questions of aeronautical engineers. So, the typical author is much less encumbered by education than you. So,
well, yeah, I definitely didn't I haven't researched any of like my space stuff. I've just pulled on that from just what I know.
she's wicked smart.
What was that?
I said she's wicked smart.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. I mean, I didn't. You asked me about classic novels, and I was like, so I mean, define smart, right?
She's wicked educated. Doesn't sound as good. It doesn't flow.
Right, there you go. Yeah, they spent a lot of money on school, and this is what they got. I mean, I don't know. Thanks, public education. Okay. Anyway, research. What have I researched? Well, I can't say I've researched dragons. I mean, a lot of my stuff I've made up.
You must have had to look up something, right?
Huh?
You must have had to have looked up something, even if it's not research. I mean, you still had to something about horses or weapons or fights.
Weapons, actually, yes. So I did research like different names of pieces of swords or different like morning stars and like different pieces of different weapons. So that way I would use the correct terminology when describing battle scenes. Yes, that I did. I don't have knowledge of weapons in my arsenal. Although I am trying to do archery, like real life archery. So we'll see how that goes and how I can incorporate that into my stories.
Wear one of those little things on your forearm.
Yeah. So the first time I went, oh my gosh, I definitely had a huge bruise right here.
Once again, the advice comes too late. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. It's okay. Yeah, I learned it well. But the good news is the first time I ever went, by the end of the day, I hit a bullseye. I was proud of myself. Nice. It was a beginner's luck, but I'm taking it.
Take it, absolutely. Yeah, you don't tell people that.
I'm just that good, guys.
It's call her Katniss.
Yes, Katniss Everdeen right here.
Squirrels will be afraid.
I am gonna. The next book I'm thinking of writing. So actually, I have 2 books that I am sort of kind of working on. One of which is that red book, The Tale of Two Curses. A lot of the feedback that I've gotten is so it was written as young adult, so I on purpose didn't go into. It's not as long as like a Brandon Sanderson book, or something like that. But people were. You're welcome.
Because Mike won't read anything over like 170,000 words or something like that.
175,000? That's way too long. 125.
25 pages, that's your limit? No. But yeah, people really loved the story that I had in there. And actually, one of the things that I've had trouble with was actually picking a book to parallel it to. Like you say, oh, the other ones are kind of like, I don't know, Avatar: The Last Airbender or like Narnia. I could never find a book that Tale of Two Curses kind of reminded me of, and every person who's read it so far has loved that because they can't think, because I keep asking them and they can't think of one either. But they really wanted me to go deeper into the magic systems that I created and the planet kind of that I created, and have a bit more of that lore back there, which I didn't put into that book because I was trying to keep it more for a young adult audience. So I'm trying to write something that is more almost like an adult version of that book. So like a lot more details sort of like put in there and follow the character a bit more, because it is more of a redemption. So like the first main character you meet is kind of a jerk in that book. And so, if you stick through, to the end, it gets better, but, you're kind of watching him grow along the way. And then the other one I'm starting, the character is hopefully going to be an archer well, you know how it goes when you write books, you have an intention and then like, oh, hey, archery. Yep. Now I like daggers. I don't know, but, yeah, she's supposed to be an archer. And then that one also since I went to the Netherlands, one of the coolest things there was like the windmills. And so I really like the tulips and stuff too. But the people we saw, they called it a museum, like when you went through it. And I learned that, and so maybe you can count this as research, even though it was more of me on my trips. But the people who used to run the windmills in the Netherlands, they lived inside those windmills that they operated. So like they didn't just like go there for work and come home, like they lived there. And so I'm trying to create like so she like runs the wind catcher, but it's more of an air catcher, and it like so like there's different species of like people who live there, and they have different magics, but they breathe different airs. And so like she's in charge of like catching the different types of air and then, filtering it out. And that's supposed to be almost like the adult sort of more version of the Blue and the Green books, this Spirits Entwined in up there, because it's going to have the different like magic systems in there. So what I'm trying to do is because I've had a lot of people say they liked the books, but since they were taken off guard by the young adult fact, maybe if I make like a step up version, then I have like the option of, hey, here's this one. You're an adult. Hey, here's this one. You can read this one with your kid and feel good about it,
Yeah, I think the young adult kind of tag is really fairly limited now, because I mean, just talking to kids and their parents at Comic-Cons, they always ask that. It's like, well, what age range is this for? And my stuff, it's like, well, I didn't write it for kids specifically, but I know people who have told me their 11 and 12-year-olds have read it and liked it, right?
Yeah.
So what I end up asking is this: have they seen Deadpool?
There you go.
If they've seen Deadpool, they're fine. You know, I mean, they're not being parented very well, but they're fine otherwise. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I've been doing a lot with them too. And like, well, if you've let them read Harry Potter and, you know, they've gone through, you know, that sort of thing, then there's nothing in these books that would, you know, destroy them as children or something like that.
Yeah, because Harry Potter's a great freaking example of how kids should behave.
Exactly.
Teresa, Teresa, I just want to add that you did your research on windmills, so that means that entire trip is a tax deduction now.
Yeah, well done.
There we go. That was the purpose of going.
And I have no classes ever in accounting, but please take my advice.
I bet you could get away with that, actually.
Well,
give it a shot.
Another note that I'll be taking from today's meeting on my invisible paper pad here.
It's a first defense. It'll be fine. You'll be okay.
Bald&Balding said I could do it. So.
Oh, those guys? Yeah, all right then. Sure.
They're totally legit, right?
Absolutely. We know
all
what we're doing.
Information from them. So how many questions you got in your silly list, Mike?
27.
Okay, here's what I think you ought to do. Roll a die, like a 6-sided die. In a 1 through 3, she gets a silly question. And a 4, 5, 6, she gets a serious question.
Okay, so I have a 10-sided die and a 20-sided die handy.
Dude, just pick one of them and do it in half.
Okay, so odd is silly, even is serious.
Sure.
4. You get a serious question.
Uh-oh.
Let's see. What do we want to do here now? We'll even roll the 20-sided die now for number 11. What advice would you give aspiring fantasy authors considering self-publishing?
Good question. Well done.
Run! Oh, sorry.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's funny because I actually get a lot of those questions at Comic-Cons. Like I have kids or whatever coming up and asking they want to be authors, like what they do. And I guess just keep
First,
writing.
you get a job in aeronautical engineering.
There you go. Yeah. Once
So
you
can
have a
live in a
degree
house.
in something sciencey or whatever, you know.
Yep. First, you get your rent payment sorted out. Then you start doing this.
Exactly. Yeah. And well, actually, I do tell them that a lot. I'm like, this is not my primary job. So highly recommend you get a steady flow of income.
Yeah.
And then, and then once you have that, you know, just keep writing, like actually finish. So I think the hardest part is finishing your first book. So it's like, you're going to hit I mean, we've all been there. It's like, you're writing. I mean, I'm horrible at planning my books. My characters just kind of do what they want. And, you know, it's like, I have an idea for them and it's like, oh, just kidding. I'm going to do this other thing because that sounds cool now. And, but just actually following through and finishing it, I think that's the hardest thing. That was the hardest thing for me the first time because I like started it in college and, you know, I didn't finish it until, I don't know, 5 to 7 years later or whatever it was. But just finish the book and then write more because the more you have written down, the better you'll get at it. And the more you'll have to put out there. And then maybe one day, if you don't like your job, you know, maybe if you're lucky and you're better than me, you know, you can quit your day job and just do your writing.
That's a remarkably good answer.
Oh, hey, I got one for 3 today, I think.
So the one thing that I don't tell new authors is that writing is the easy part. It's marketing that really is hard. Because, you know, you want them to actually finish and then suffer like you do.
Yeah. Like, I feel like I've tried to be my most creative while like stretching the bounds of my imagination, not while writing, but while figuring out how to market the darn stuff.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
So I will tell you, Teresa, I had several people tell me they go to farmers market, like maybe once a month, and that they've had good success there because it's like, you know, $10 for the day. And it's half a day, and then you get the rest of the day for yourself. So I've been telling myself for a year and a half now I'm going to do that and have not done it yet. But, you know, it's on the list of someday before I die. So
I did. So in Berryville near me, there was a guy who did something called Read Local at his farmer's market. So it's only like about 20 minutes from where I live. And so I gave him some of my books to sell last year at the farmer's market there. And I sold like 30 books and I didn't even show up. It was just at the farmer's market table and people would come up and just buy the books. And I was like, wow.
Where is this?
Yeah, right.
It was in Berryville, Virginia, but he does like read local. You have to be within like 20 to 30. I was surprised how many writers live within 20 to 30 minutes of like where I live, because I went there, to see my books and in the wild. And there's like, he had this table full of, I don't know, maybe like 20 different authors' books. And I was like, these are all people who live within like 20 to 30 minutes of me. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
But a lot of them were historical. I guess Virginia is a lot big into the history stuff. So a lot of them were like historical fiction.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. There's something. That's our first Mayim-Balak reference we've ever had. 76 episodes, and we got our first Mayim-Balak.
I do like The Big Bang Theory. That is one of my favorite shows.
That is wonderful. And hey, Ro, we hit a new all-time record here with E.L. Montague.
Yeah, I know, right? I was wondering if he'd found something better to do.
So EL, when he gets on, he normally comments so often that Google thinks that he's a bot and they cancel him. So he's always saying that about the 30-minute mark, he gets kicked out by me, as if I know the technology to do this. But now he's saying that they preemptively banned him.
The bot has recognized him.
So, yes, normally we get a barrage of questions from EL, but he's been strangely silent, and now we know why.
It's been a very kind of low-key chat area today.
Well, I mean, we have our Canadian in there, and he's just going to be polite because...
Right, exactly, yeah.
I mean, how can you not? Have you ever heard of a rude Canadian?
Well,
no.
There were stories from World War II, but never mind.
I mean, other than when he was trashing on Vermont maple syrup as being inferior.
Don't rile me up, boy. Oh, he just said screw you, Mike.
I bring that out in everyone.
And he didn't even apologize afterwards, so he's serious.
Ugh.
All right, we get time for one more?
Sure.
Do it from the Goofy list. I
Just...
don't know what questions he has on here, so to me, this is actually just as entertaining as anything else he came up with.
This is one of my favorites, and I've been wanting someone to answer this for forever.
Oh, goody.
You take your main character to Walmart. You get a basket, and the main character is gone. Where did he or she go, and what is he or she doing?
All right, I guess I have to choose which book.
Pick your favorite
out.
Well, I guess if I choose the Spirits Entwined book, and Kylie, she is the main character, she's probably gone to the produce section to get some blapples for the Pegasus, because she likes those creatures a lot. If we choose Brooke or Trevi from the Tale of Two Curses, they've probably gone off to like the I don't know. Let's say, do they have a weapons section in Walmart?
we can say yes.
Okay, yeah, they've gone over there to see, what the new cool stuff is, and what they can bring with them to that new planet of Alir, so that way they can survive this new land that they're getting thrown into.
I almost took my wife to Walmart. My wife became an American citizen this last week, and I almost took her to Walmart to say, we're going to get you a gun. It would have been perfect, but we didn't. So.
Oh yeah, they wouldn't choose a gun. They would definitely choose like a sword, because I know Walmart has, a lot of, maces and swords and that sort of thing there, on sale.
Where the hell do you go to Walmart? You got to go to Target to get those. They don't have that.
Target. There we go. Yeah.
Much more refined,
Yeah, there you go. Much bigger selection there. Well, maybe they could get like a tennis racket. I mean, that could kind of double as like a.
So I'll tell you, in the book that I'm writing now, I have a dwarf. She has a couple of hand axes, and she ends up having to give it to the god who does of the forge, and he forges a new weapon, and she's going to get a shovel. Oh. And she's really not happy. Now it's sharp on all the sides, and it's magic, so it'll never dull. But yes, her weapon is a shovel.
I like it.
Why not?
Yeah. No, that's great because, like, I mean, when you read a book, it's always fun to find something, either clever or different. So that's yeah, I have not read a book where the main character's weapon is a shovel yet.
No, I never have either.
Yeah, there you go. Well, sounds like you will if you're his editor. You got one coming
this
up.
sounds like a enchanted shovel +6 or something.
Well,
I should mention that about my book. So all of my books are actually based on different D&D campaigns that I've done. So I have
Nice.
yeah. So the Spirits Entwined and Stars Calling, that's based in a world where I was the DM. And so a lot of the magic systems and the creatures like the firelings and the Pegasus and the things that I've made up in there, I had actually already made up in my D&D world. And so I was just bringing those into the books. And the Tale of Two Curses one was a D&D campaign that I was a part of. And actually one of the people who I was playing with came up with the idea of he had a cursed ring that he had inherited from his family. And I basically just took that and ran. And that's kind of like the cursed artifact that is causing the main character to go crazy when he hits 40.
Nice.
I played with a DM once who made a cursed ring. Basically, it brought your charisma down to right down to almost nothing.
My
It
level?
was just a plain gold band that's worn on this finger.
Okay. Yeah, no, this is definitely a more ornate ring in this book. Yeah, and it has like some more magical powers to it. And he did a lot more research than I did on this during the book. So he's done a lot of research. His family and for generations has been doing research on this ring to try and unravel its secrets. So that way, because his dad's gone crazy, his dad's dad, his dad, for however long, and so he's finally determined to be the one that breaks that curse because 40 comes too soon. So
EL, that wasn't a joke. It's a real thing. That was the DM's thing. He made a wedding band that was a cursed ring that meant you would never get anywhere. That wasn't. Don't blame me. Blame it on the weird DM from 1988. So, Theresa, do you still play D&D?
Right now, I don't have any campaigns going on. We've just been playing regular board games with the group that I do this with. But I mean, I've enjoyed it. There's no reason why I wouldn't continue.
Yeah, you make board games too, right?
Oh yeah, I make board games. Yes, I really enjoy that. Yeah.
So, can you tell us a little bit about one of your board games?
Sure. Oh, actually, I didn't know what I need with props. This is one of the board games I made. It's called Wizards of Wayren. So Wayren is actually all of my fantasy worlds are connected. So Wayren is actually one of the towns that you'll meet with all the witches in the Two Curses book. And essentially, so if you guys ever played Settlers of Catan, and they have the little the map is made of these hexagon things. I am so bad at this camera thing. Yeah, I have a degree in aerospace engineering, not in intelligence or whatever this is. So spatial recognition. But yeah, essentially the game board changes every time. You have 6 different wizards. One's a light wizard, one's a dark wizard, one's fire, water. And you're basically just trying to get dominion over the world. So the more little magic pieces, so you can see there's little circles on there that are different colors. So on your turn, you can either power up your wizard to get more spells because there's a spell deck with different cards, or you can place these cool little, oh goodness.
Other way. There you go.
There you go. These little magic pieces on the board on those circles. And just the more magic power you have, the more spells you can do and the more powerful you are. So that way you get more victory points. So at the end of the game, the person with the most victory points wins. So yeah, I do. Yeah, here's some of the cards, the spell deck.
Okay, I'm good with being able to write 100,000 page or word book, right? I'm good with being able to create worlds and all that. But it would require narcotics before I could actually create a game like that?
It's really fun. I don't know. I had a good, so there was a lot of play testing, and there's a lot of, so I had, one of the hardest things is not just coming up with the idea for the game, it's making it like playable and fair, and something that you can scale like from like 2 to 6 people, so that way you only just have the same number of people playing. And there is a lot of math like involved. You had to
You mean designing one, not playing one?
Yeah. Well, yeah, in designing one. No, there's no math in this game, but you had like to play the game. But in order to design the game, you had to figure out, oh, well, how likely is this person to win? Like if they use this strategy, like how many, like, what's the likelihood of them getting this number of points and all that kind of stuff. So I did think a lot about that. And I think especially, and thank you to all of my friends, if any of them are on here who played this game. I know I probably drove you crazy.
How many different games have you made?
This is the one I've gone all the way through with and like tried to get like stuff printed out. I have another game that I also played with my friends, but I haven't made it. It's like a dragon game, and each of you is a different dragon with sort of different powers, and you race. It's a little simpler than this one. I haven't put as much effort into it yet, but you essentially are like trying to like race to the end. It also has some D&D in there because you have like, because I did D&D, so I like the dice. Anyway, so like you roll the dice, and you like your dragon like moves along the little board, and like you can get stuck in different areas, and different dragons are immune to different like things that you come along the way. And that one, instead of being like victory point based, it's like physically getting your dragon from one end of the board to the other.
Nice.
Yeah, you should definitely go to this Crack City Con and bring your games and talk them up, and then start a Kickstarter for your second game.
Yeah, I've looked into Kickstarter for my books too, and it just seems like a lot.
It is a lot.
You made a freaking game. How hard could Kickstarter be?
I don't know. There's like lots of people.
Mike's done Kickstarter.
Yeah,
The bar is low.
Oh, you did how did you do on Kickstarter?
So I only asked for 1,500. And because author Mike Mollman got on there and pledged the last 500, I was successful.
I love it.
Like, you're not supposed to say that, man. You're supposed to keep the quiet part quiet, brother.
There's a reason why I'm not married, bro.
God, man.
But
it's okay. I would do the same thing if I'm like, I'm not failing.
I talked to several people who've been wildly successful, and they're like, well, where did you advertise that your Kickstarter? I'm like, oh, you're supposed to do that?
Well, I have my Instagram. Unfortunately, they like different kinds of books, but I mean that might be a start.
Yeah, it really is. You have a mailing list, right, for your books?
I do. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. That's a good place to start too. Is because your games have something to do with your books. You have a nice kind of combination where you could offer all of that stuff as different levels, and you can hit the gamers and the book people at the same time.
Yeah. The hard thing with the games is they're very not like, at least with books, they're really, I mean, they don't make money off it clearly enough to still have a day job, but like they're a lot cheaper to make because you can like print a book for like $5, right? But like printing that game I just showed you, that was $110 just to print.
Yeah, but you only ordered one, right?
Yeah, there is that. Yeah,
if you just went and ordered one book, I mean, KDP aside, if you just went to a printer and said, "I would like my book made, please," that's going to cost you that much too.
Yeah.
You just got to order, 100 of them.
Because I will find 100 buyers.
You gotta believe.
Kickstarter, right?
You gotta believe, right? Yeah. So I have looked into Kickstarter. It was just very intimidating to me, I guess. So that's why I didn't do it. And then I definitely, like, a lot of people were telling me about shipping horror stories, and so I'd want to make sure it was like within the United States and stuff.
Funny you should mention that, Mike. Do you have a shipping horror story?
I have many. So
just tell the one that you always tell. It makes me laugh.
I had woman, and she's like, "Oh, I love your books. I want to order them. I want all 4 books." And I was like, "Okay, well, if you're buying all 4 hardbacks, then it's $80." She goes, "Okay, how much for shipping?" I was like, "No. You know what? I'm just happy. I will pay shipping." She goes, "Okay, great. I'm in the Netherlands."
Oh,
And I paid $88 shipping.
Wow. That's a lot.
But she did get on Twitter and show everyone the books and said she loved them, and she didn't even want to take them out of little map things. And I was like, "Well, you got to read them and give me reviews."
Yeah, you have to review for that. Yeah, that's
right. Yeah, you've got to give me reviews. I paid a lot of money for your books.
Well,
yeah.
actually, the horror story gets even worse, because when I did it or whatever at the U.S. Post Office to ship it, they said estimated costs on the other ends with VAT, tax, and this and that or whatever. She's going to have to pay $53 in addition to the $80 that she bought for my books. So, I mean, nobody here, there's no winner in this story other than bureaucracy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think if I did Kickstarter, I would have to, and that's what I worry is, like, if I did Kickstarter, I'd want to like only do like United States, but I fear that would like really limit my audience, because it seems like a lot of the, like, what percentage when you did your Kickstarter was US versus foreign?
I had a few Canadians who bought the ebooks because by that time I'd learned that it cost me about $55 to ship to Canada. And I think Tim, who's on here, is like, it doesn't cost anywhere near that much to ship to America from Canada. I'm like, well, that's because your country's more sane than ours.
It's downhill.
But so they
well, yeah, they just roll it down. It's fine.
So they just bought the ebooks, but no one bought actually, where I had to ship outside the US.
Okay. Yeah, because that was okay. That's interesting. No, this is all good, because I definitely did oh, hey, there you go. Another thing I did research on was Kickstarter. So nothing that I put in my books, but it was something I actually spent quite a bit of time like looking into, and I even made like a Kickstarter account. So I like pretended to take it seriously for a bit of time.
And
But
Bo has something for you. He never told me this.
For what?
Look into Merrick Books. I don't know the thing because, of course, he never shared this with me, Bo.
Okay, good to know.
See, so if you're likable, Bo will share this information.
You learn something.
We got some secret. I should have brought my notepad. What was I brought my board game, but not my notepad.
You can just watch the video again later.
Oh, that's true. Yes, it's like.
Bo, stop bringing in facts. We don't like those here.
You didn't ask. All right, Theresa, thank you very much for spending time with us. I know you have other things to do.
That's all right. It's been fun. Read and review.
Look into Crash City Con in August, and maybe we'll see you there.
Yeah,
all right.
I'm sure they have space. Trust me.
Oh my God, Birdwood Center. Yeah, they're going to have space. That won't be an issue.
It won't be an issue. Okay, all right. Crash City Con.
Yep.
Okay, well,
take us out, Mike. Thank you to everybody who joined us today. Thanks for getting us to 200.
Yeah.